Welcome to a Gallen of Questions. My name is Pat Gallen, and joining me here today is a Grammy-nominated producer. He's a Philly native. He went to Central. I went to Northeast, so it pains me that I have to be friends with him. But we all get along, right? He also went to Temple, and he is the biggest Phillies fan I have ever met. Will Yip is here with me in studio. What's up, dude?
Dude, what's up, man? So good to see you.
It's been, I feel like we've been circling here for a long time, and finally we got this thing together.
I'm so glad. Thanks for having me. I just had a newborn.
Yeah.
So this is like the first time I've been having a conversation
with another
adult, other than my wife.
Yeah.
Who,
how's it going?
Great. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Christina's doing great.
Yeah.
It's just a lot. Everything they say is true. But then there's so much more that people don't tell you.
They don't tell you.
You didn't tell me about a lot of this. This
well,
is crazy. It's crazy.
Here's why. And Justin's over here. He knows he's got kids that, like, you secretly want everyone else to suffer just a little bit because you did too. So you can't give all the secrets away.
Yeah, but he's great. He's awesome.
And you picked the busiest time in your life to have a kid.
Yeah.
So good work there.
Yeah. It's kind of great. This is actually the busiest time I've ever had in my life. It wasn't supposed to be, but all things kind of aligned for this,
Before we get to all the craziness in your life, like take me all the way back. You grew up in Northeast Philly.
Yeah.
Your parents still live same
Yep, they
same
live
place
in
you
the
grew up?
same house, right off Frankfurt Ave.
Yeah, near where my parents.
Yeah.
They're like right down the street.
Yeah,
my parents and your parents still live
crazy.
right down the street. So when did your love of when did this start to point to like this is what I want to do with my life?
Music.
Yeah.
Music. Not Phillies.
Not Phillies
being
stuff.
obsessed with Phillies. All right. No. I was always looking for like a place. I know it sounds very cliche, but growing up, even I remember as a very young kid in elementary school, I was like trying to find my place in something, whether that was basketball or with art. I just wanted an outlet for something. Sure. I was a restless kid. I was always doing something. I was finding new things to do. And like most, kids that have a older sibling, I looked up to my brother, and he was really big into music. He was really big into, collecting CDs and cassettes. Yeah. And I remember he brought home, it was Chronic. The two records that stuck with me are Chronic, the OG Chronic, and In Utero. Nevermind In Utero. Very two different genres.
Yeah.
But that was my brother, too. He just loved the music.
Sure, yeah.
And I remember listening to both those records, and I was like, this is cool. I didn't know what I loved about it, but it made me feel something. Sure. You know what I mean? And it was real. It made me, even whatever, I was like 9 years old or whatever it was, and I loved it. And so I started kind of collecting music, with him. I'll be obsessed with liner notes, like reading where things were done and all that. And it wasn't until, I was 11 or 12 when a Sam Ash store, which is no longer around, R.I.P., but a Sam Ash store opened in Franklin Mills.
Yep. Remember it well.
Yep. And I went in, and I just bought a pair of drumsticks. I just wanted a pair of drumsticks. I just thought they were so cool.
Didn't play, you just wanted them.
I just wanted a pair of drumsticks, and I want to start hitting things with it. And that's exactly what I did. And I never stopped. So at 11, I bought a pair of drumsticks for $3, and I just hit pillows, and it was actually a good exercise, to kind of hit things and make noises and find how to hit things, and I was just desperate to find common like people that also had the same interests. So in 6th grade, I started jamming with these kids. Anyone that had a guitar or like a really tiny little amp.
By this point, you had a set.
I did have a set.
Right,
yeah, my parents were very supportive. They actually hated the idea of me playing drums. They wanted me to play, the violin or piano. Very Asian of them, but I just loved the drums. I think it was because I came from being obsessed with like hip hop and all that. So I just love beats. I love rhythm, and I would find anyone that had a bass or even their drum set or anyone that I could like jam with. So I just started playing in really terrible bands, in the 6th and 7th grade. And then, without getting too much further, but the summer before 7th grade, I linked up with one of my best friends at the time, and we saved up all of our money. All of our allowance money, all of our lunch money, which was like $100. But to us, $100,
like $1 million at that point.
It's $1 million, And we went to the Yellow Pages, and we found a recording studio where like we want to record some of these songs that we wrote, because we think they're like awesome. They were not great, but for
7th grade.
Yeah,
why not?
12-year-olds who were like, yo, this rocks. And we booked a studio in Northeast Philly called Ground Control, and it was right off Frankfurt, a little closer to the Frankfurt terminal. And we spent $100. We recorded 2 songs. The second I walked into this basement studio, I'd never been in a studio before, I fell in love. I thought I loved music, but I loved that. I loved walking to the studio and seeing the behind the scenes, the big picture, and watching the engineer and producer do what he was doing. I was like, this is what I was meant to do, was the big picture aspect.
Sure.
You know, not just play the drums, not just play the guitar. I think throughout the, you know, my school career, my collegiate career, I was a terrible person to be in a band with because I wanted so much control of everything. But I remember my manager was like, yeah, you're going to be a great producer.
Yeah, perfect producer, for sure.
And I just fell in love with this. So I started interning for him. You know, I just wanted to be in the studio. So I started interning for him for nothing. It was no academic internship. I was 13, 14 at that point. Sure. And I never left the studio. I just kept searching for other studios to kind of do the same. And I just loved it, man. I just love music. It's such a big part of me.
I just read Dave Grohl's book not that long ago. He says that he learned how to play drums in the same way, on pillows.
Yeah.
He didn't have a drum set yet. He got sticks and started learning on pillows. But also, like, you know, we grew up in the 90s. Yep. And there was such a wide variety of music that was popular at the time that I feel like we grew up in the perfect era to be able to learn genres and have all of that at our disposal that others didn't and don't now. I don't know about, you know, 14-year-olds growing up now, but it doesn't feel like they're really reaching and searching for all these different genres the way we did.
No, that's really that's a really cool point because, you know, think back, you know, the Beatles era, right? Your 50s and 60s, or the barrier of entry into music was a lot harder, right? So you had these giant artists, and everyone kind of gathered around to watch the Beatles perform you know, on TV, and it was such like this common thing. And nowadays, everything is so niche. Everything is so niche because there's so much. There's so much. The barrier of entry is so little. You know what I mean? That anyone's making music, and people are fans of this. There's 7,000 subdivisions of punk, 7 million subdivisions of hip hop, right? And everyone has their own thing, which is very cool. We grew up in a time where that was all kind of like merging. You know what I mean? Where you know we were still paying attention to the world's biggest acts together, but then we're finding our little niches too. You know, I was like, able to kind of find hardcore, but yet still talk about the Eminem record with my friends. You know what I mean? So yeah, you're right. It's a very cool time where we can grab on to things, but yet still find the future, with these niches,
And you said that, to kind of break into the business, you did not get paid. You did it because you loved it. I was the same way. First job trying to get into radio. I said, you know what, I'll take anything I can get. And I think that's another thing that's kind of lost on this, not to sound like, hey, get off my lawn like old man, but you have to work. Sometimes it's ugly, but you got where you wanted to go by doing that. So you break in with Studio 4.
Yeah.
You start working with some of the biggest acts in the world. Talk about what that whole process was like.
Studio 4 was my dream studio.
Yeah.
Studio 4, again, growing up, I would open up, record inserts, and I had Boyz II Men records and Fugees records, Criss Cross records when I was really young. And I remember opening them and seeing recorded or mixed and mastered at Studio 4 in Philadelphia or in Conshohocken.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's here. I thought everything happened in Hollywood. I thought everything happened in New York, and I thought I would never go to LA, coming from, a very modest family. LA might as well have been on Mars. I've never in my lifetime go to LA, spend time in LA. And I was like, but Philly, they're making records here?
It's here, yeah.
I was like, that's my dream. My goal is to end up there. I knew that very early in high school that I wanted to end up at Studio 4 somehow, some way. I knew they were doing records with Bob Dylan and Aerosmith and Billy Joel. I was like, I want to be there. I just want to be in this professional place and really be able to stretch what I can do. And in college, before college, I had a long argument, discussion with my family about Penn or Temple. And Had a really cool scholarship to Temple, which was was very enticing. But the most important thing was that Phil Nicolo, who is the owner of Studio 4 and the co-founder of Rough House Records, was an adjunct professor at Temple.
Okay.
And whereas my parents they were trying to like kind of drag me away from music. At this point, they'll tell you right now that at that point they thought I was still playing around. You know what I mean?
Sure.
In the Chinese language, it sounds way funnier. They thought I was just messing around.
Sure.
You know, they're waiting for me to like, all right, figure it out. Let's have a real.
What do they really want you to do?
Anything else? We'll get the conversation where they're like, "Oh, we left everything in China so our kids can have a better life." Sure. And you're just gonna play around with music. You know what I mean? But yet they were always supportive. They saw that I loved it, and they're like, "All right, you figure it out then."
Sure.
And I decided to go to Temple just so I can link with Phil Nicolo. So second semester, I waited outside. After everyone's waiting for him. I was like, I'm gonna be the last to talk to him. I waited for him, and I was like, "Hey, man, I've been working at a bunch of these other studios, recording a bunch of my own stuff. I'd love to help. I'll help for free. I'll show up every day. I'll clean your toilets. I'll grab your coffee, whatever you need." He's like, "Just show up today, and just show up."
Yeah.
I was like, "All right, I'm showing up. I'm showing up."
Yeah.
And I showed up that day, and I've never left. '07, '08, there was talks about not a comeback, but that Miss Lauryn Hill wanted to make music again.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, she's been out of public eye for about 8 years or so. And she was my favorite artist, and she still is, if not the one of my favorite artists ever.
Incredible, yeah.
Again, when we're talking about niches and wide music, I think she's all of that. I think, we always say that she's like human music.
Sure.
Her music is just for humans, And I was like, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of helping it. And Phil called me. But there's a lot of interns, a lot of assistants working for Phil. Yeah. And he was like, I want you to be my guy with Lauryn. I'm like, oh, man, that's awesome. And there were a few times where we booked, that her team booked, and she ended up canceling. Like, we were there all night, and she ended up canceling. And then for the third time in late '08, after the World Series, late '08,
you go by Philly sports.
I go by Philly. Yeah,
it makes sense.
It's my foundation, because everything else is so crazy. But late '08, they call again, and at this point, I'm like, sure. I was like,
we've been through this before.
Yeah, but I'll wait. I'll clean up. The whole studio's all chill, and it's midnight-ish. And I was like, yeah, it's not happening. And then we get a call. There's a vehicle outside. This Lauryn Hill walks down and then walks through the doors. I am not a starstruck person. Actually, that's not true. I'm not starstruck with musicians.
Sure.
Because again, we're all doing the same thing. I'm very starstruck with athletes.
Philly sports.
Yeah. But it could be Jay-Z walking through. I'd be like, cool, bet. It could be Bob Dylan. Cool. But with Lauryn, she really is something else.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I saw, Beyonce or who was it? There's Nicki Minaj meeting Lauryn for the first time, and they lost it. It was like that.
Right,
she is something.
There's like
else.
an aura.
Yeah, she is
about
something
her that you
else.
just can't describe.
And it's funny we're talking about Temple because I was just about graduating, and I was thinking about going to grad school. I was like, all right, yeah, I don't really feel like just making $15 an hour recording local bad bands all the time.
Right.
Maybe I should look at teaching or look at whatever. And my professor or senior advisor was like, dude, do this thing with Lauryn Hill. That is your degree. That is your graduate school.
Wow.
I
like that.
It's like, do this. And I'm like, all right. And I gave my all. Ended up touring with her for about 5 years.
So it went so well that she's like, come with me.
Yeah, what happened was we built a studio, in her house, in a house that she just acquired. And Phil and I built a studio, and we had musicians live there, producers lived there, engineers lived there. And we just kind of hit it off. And she was getting so many offers to play because now people were like, oh, she's back. We want her to play. Yeah. And she's getting all these offers, and she keeps her team close. And she's like, Will, Phil, let's go on tour together. I'm like, all right, let's do this. So come, the second I graduated, we're in I didn't walk because we're in Australia, New Zealand for our first tour with her. I got to play some drums on a few gigs because we didn't have a drummer. So yeah, that really kind of set me up that if I could do that, I could do anything.
Sure.
Especially going through that because she is hard. She is hard. She's hardcore. She's more punk than anyone I've ever met. And she's insanely talented. She has a crazy vision. I actually texted her this not that long ago that she's taught me more in that time that I think I've learned in any other field or any other institution for years and years and years.
Wild.
Just in those tours, just in those sessions and making music together. I owe her a lot. Because she kind of put me through it in the best way.
So I wanted to know what life was like for a producer. You kind of spelled it out, though, that it's nonstop. I mean, on a whim, you could be across the world. Yeah. For you now, you're a little bit more homebound. So what is a day in the life like for Will Yip now?
Man. Now?
Yeah. Especially now you have a kid. It changes the equation a little bit.
Because I'm on leave now. So I'm I'm taking a little paternity right now. I'll be back in the studio full time back in August. Okay. But my days, I always tell guys, bands that I don't advise other assistants or engineers coming up to do what I do. Right. You know what I mean? Because it's hard, man. Yeah. It's hard. If it was easy, anyone would do it. Sure. Everyone would do it if it was easy. But I don't take it for granted. I get to make music every day with some of my best friends in the world. That's all I do. You know what I mean? Yeah. So of course I'm gonna give it my all. Of course I'm gonna go so hard in it. But my hours, my days have been getting better. But usually, I wake up. This is every day. Every day other than Sundays, I wake up at 8 o'clock, walk the dog. Now with the baby
a little different. It's a little different. Change it a little.
But I'll get into the studio at 10. Always have lunch at 1. And I leave the studio at 8:30 with the band. So that whole 10-hour day out, I'm there working with an artist. And then at 8:30, I have dinner with my wife, and we catch up. And then she goes to bed at 11 o'clock. And then I go downstairs. I have a studio in my house as well. And that's when I mix, I edit, I work on the record label. So and I rinse and repeat every day.
Sure. Fill up the gallon. We ask questions. So pick one out of there. We'll see if we can get to all of them, and we'll see how we answer them. What do you think?
Awesome.
Grab one. We'll see what it is.
Oh, man. Should I hold the gallon?
Here, I'll hold the gallon while you open. Let's shake him up a little.
Best Phillies game you've ever been to? Ooh. Can I say 2?
Yeah.
Can I say 2?
Yeah, there are no rules here.
All right. 2010 NLDS Game 1. Roy Halladay, no-hitter.
No-hitter.
Lost it.
I bet.
I lost it.
I was there for that game in the press box. I have never been so nervous in my life just watching a game. As press, you're supposed to be like disconnected from those things. No, it was crazy. I was like actually sweating.
I went with like 6 dudes, and we didn't say a word to each other past the 3rd inning. We didn't say a word. That's the thing, right? But the other one would be Game 3 of the World Series 22. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, I thought we were
hit like 6 home runs or something.
Bro, I thought we were the best baseball team to ever exist. Yeah.
Rank your favorite Philly bands right now.
Right now.
Oh,
dude, you can't do that to me. My favorite Philly bands.
Yeah.
Right now. All right. This is easy.
Give me a couple right off the top.
All right, because I have this is easy. All right, because I have a record label.
Yeah.
So I'll start.
Yeah, dude, that's where you start.
I'll go back. Balancing Exposure.
Yep.
Have a new record coming out on our label, and it's incredible. They're unreal right now.
Yeah.
They're unreal. Queen of Jeans also on my label.
Yep.
But from bands that don't produce, War on Drugs. I love War on Drugs. They one of the most influential bands coming up from our world. Menzingers are crushing it.
Yep.
Super Heaven, I also work with. They have a viral hit right now, but they're awesome. Man, I'm probably missing.
That's great. Others, you knocked them out. Yeah. Artist you like that might surprise some people?
My favorite artist, my Spotify most listened to is Sade.
All right.
Sade, that's the music that
That just brings you down, relaxes you a little bit.
I need it, man.
Yeah.
I listen to electric guitars all day. You know what I mean?
I love
Sade is my core music.
Better atmosphere, Eagles playoff game or Phillies playoff game?
I love both. I'm a season ticket holder for both.
Yep.
Been an Eagles season ticket holder for 8 years now, but I would say nothing has beaten those World Series games.
They were unbelievable, right?
Not even close.
I love playoff baseball here in this town. If you were an athlete, which sport and position would you play?
It would be baseball, and it would be pitcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to be in control. I want to be in control of the game. You know what I mean?
Will Yip likes to be in control. We learned that here on this day. Coffee, tea, other.
Iced tea. I'm not a coffee guy.
Okay.
If I have one coffee, I'm up for 3 days. Yeah.
You're already up for like 3 days
exactly.
anyway.
Yeah.
How many we got here? We can.
I like this.
Sorry, Justin. I know
This is a good bit. I like this.
You like this?
Yeah.
Best restaurant in the city.
Ooh.
Gotta narrow it down.
I have a lot of good friends.
Yeah, you do.
I have a lot of good friends but I would say Roy Zakaya, the Omakase changed the game for Philly.
Huge thanks to Will Yip for sitting down and having a long conversation with me. So long, in fact, that there are 2 parts. There's plenty more to come. Part 2 will come next weekend with my friend and Grammy-nominated producer, Will Yip. So many great stories. We just couldn't fit them in one show. So we're going to do 2. This has been a Gallen of Questions. My name is Pat Gallen. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next week.